So I saw Dave East. This was a video that was posted. He was being interviewed, and Pete Rock shared this. And y'all know we've talked about Pete Rock's IG. Might be hit or miss depending on what mood you in.
He share everything.
He gonna share everything though. This was good, Pete, though, when he shared this
He's
one.
the DJ Academics of music producers.
Don't put that on Pete. Is that who he is?
You know him and Long beefing anyway.
I do. I mean, it's legit beef.
I mean, but some of the stuff he shares is like, what are you doing?
Act though? You gonna put act on Pete?
I think Academics is maybe a little bit more responsible than Pete sometimes.
I don't know.
And that's pretty dangerous.
No, he was gonna put them paws on it.
Oh man,
not wrong.
I don't know, man.
Academics is kind of consistent with his
consistently
academics.
Well, that girl pulled a pistol on him.
Allegedly. Yeah. Allegedly. He's a clown though, for the record.
Pistola.
But Dave East was being interviewed, and he said he thought that based off his skill set, the question that was posed to him was, do you think you're underrated? And he said, I don't think I'm underrated. I think I'm in the wrong era. I think and he was talking about his cadence and his tempo and the way he raps and tension and lyrics. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he says
even down to his look.
To his look, his style, he looks nothing like the quote unquote, mainstream rappers now. He doesn't look anything like that. And he mentioned piercings and a whole bunch of crazy stuff. He went down the list. I thought it was dope that he actually said that out loud, that he just thought that he's in the wrong era. What do you guys think about an artist actually coming out and saying, I just think I'm in the wrong era and I'm just trying to maneuver and make my way through the current state of the game? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think he's being honest and he's being open. Some people might look at it and be like, oh man, you just supposed to adjust and stop saying that and you're trying to cop out and all this. I didn't take it that way. I thought it was
he's having a
moment.
successful career, honestly.
I would say so
look
too.
At it, but at the end of the day, even if he feels like he's in the wrong era as far as year wise or whatnot, he's very fortunate to even be able to say that, being in the running with all these other artists as well, because I don't know if people know Davey's story. He actually was a basketball player.
To say, he was a hooper, right?
He was a hooper, and that dream didn't manifest like he wanted it to, and he was also nice on the mic, so he was able to pick up that and run with it and still became successful. So even though his style is a little different than newer, it's actually Joey Badass is another example of somebody that could be mentioned as being in the wrong era per se. Their sound isn't I don't want to say cliche as the newer artist. It definitely sounds like a more underground sound, or not even underground, just more
like that last one.
It sounds more
like
New York.
Regional.
New York, more like a 95 through 98 New York style.
I mean, he came in with a cosign from Nas though, to back up what he's saying, and then what you're saying as well. From a regional standpoint, it's definitely 100%. I guess early 90s New York, if you were to try to pinpoint.
And it's not all the way just old sounding, in my personal opinion. It still sounds like it's an updated version. It's even I've even said this with Griselda a few times, that they to me remind me of a more old school era of New York, and they're the newer class, but they're older though. They adapted. They adapted with the change of time, and they were able to still keep that same core that they came up with and polish it and put their own spin on it and keep it relevant. So
agree.
I think that's pretty nice.
Jump in there, Long.
No, I mean, I agree. I think I see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think of Dave East, I just think of a New York rapper who looks kind of like what we were just saying. Like I feel like he would fit good in a different era, and I feel like he would probably adapt to whatever era he's in. But he's definitely that type of artist. But, at the same time, like, I don't know, I just think that his style and everything that he does, maybe he hasn't been appreciated in the way that maybe necessarily he deserves yet, but I feel like a lot of artists that have kind of, went a similar path and stuck to the sound that they've done, it just takes them a little bit longer to get noticed on a broader scale.
Yeah.
If you think about like somebody like, just for example, I'm not one-on-one comparing them, but if you think of somebody like Royce the 5'9",
right.
Royce has always been super lyrical like Dave East is. He's always had a specific type of production he kind of raps over. He's always been extra Detroit. But then he got a couple writing plugs, and he continued to put out good material. Started working with Diddy as a writer, did some other things. They started working with Primo, then the Slaughterhouse thing, and M, and all that stuff. And then Royce starts to become more of a household name, and he kind of develops his own type of thing within that.
Yeah.
I feel like Dave East's path just might be take more time than some of the other artists that are maybe more so what's popular, maybe.
Because I don't, I think to Terry's point, it's not outdated is not the word.
No,
it's just
not that at all.
He pulls from that until
you can hear
comes from that era.
Yeah.
He pulls from that era or was influenced by that era. And he talked about the hoop. I know a lot of people know, but some people may not. Like him and KD was on the same AAU team. So Dave East really could hoop. Like he was out there. I ain't saying he was the best player on the team, but I did my research and
KD was on the team. So.
Definitely the best player. But he could get busy from what I heard. He has some skill. What you think, Jay Moore? How does that make you feel to see an artist come out and be that open about possibly being in the wrong era?
Well, see, this is where I'm gonna be a little bit controversial.
Uh-oh.
I mean,
like
is that
that.
an excuse for why he hasn't been able to achieve more within the marketplace by saying, oh, well, if I was just out at this time, I'd be way more popular. When I think about Davey, and the thing is, I'm a fan of Davies, for a while now. But the thing is, the people who rhymed like Dave East, when we talked about the 95 through 98, they didn't really get, they got their love, but they weren't on the radio like that.
No, they weren't super like that either.
When you think about somebody, I remember OC Jules. I remember loving that record. That record didn't really move mountains as far as like radio and records were concerned.
At all.
Even when we talk very glowingly about someone like Big L. Big L really didn't get his props until after he was gone.
Facts.
So I almost want to know what era he's talking about. I didn't get into the whole article, but he
didn't really name one, but I kind of got an idea based off how he said
so
it,
when I think
going.
about an era where Dave East would have, seemed like he was more comfortable in the marketplace, there's a good chance you wouldn't have enjoyed a great deal of not only mainstream success then, or you wouldn't have been written about. I mean, people would have been like, oh yeah, Dave East is dope. Just like we talk about him now, you would have been the same thing then, because of the music that you make. And I think the music that he makes is actually good, but you have to think about exactly, the people who may have influenced you. These people weren't always lauded, or they may have never been particularly lauded. Even when you think about Nas, Nas's Illmatic didn't go platinum until like maybe 5 years after it was out. In fact, it didn't go gold in its initial run because, there's not a radio hit off of Illmatic.
It wasn't looked at then like it is now.
People have this romanticized idea about what Illmatic was when it came out. But I remember what it was. First of all, it had been bootlegged super heavy. That was one thing. But there were no hits on Illmatic. There are songs that we love, things that move the culture. But when you're talking about an era when he was out at around the same time as Notorious B.I.G., you're talking about he's out at the same time as Snoop Dogg. These people were moving culture and they were moving units. When you talk about what, being in the wrong era, honestly, if you're from the cloth that you're cut from, honestly, you may not have done any better 25 years ago than you're doing right now.
But he might not be referencing this related to like how good he would do. He might just be like, my peers would be more so from that era.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
See, that's the way it came off to me. I don't think he was necessarily
and
saying that.
And from that angle, I agree with him.
Yeah, but to your point, Jay, more about the angle that you're taking, I don't think he was looking at it from a standpoint of had I been in another era, I would be more successful. I think he was just talking about his surroundings and just the overall appeal of the game. That's the way I took it.
Okay.
You know
I mean, that makes sense, like, because, how, but, at the same time, one of his peers in a way is J. Cole.
Well, I'm with you when you're right.
One of his peers is Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
One of his peers, is, for whatever you got to say about Drake. And there are times when, when he's not trying to be super commercial, Drake does have the potential to get busy when he wants to.
It actually may have worked out better for Dave East musically by being in this era because it makes him stick out a little bit.
Yeah. Same with Joey. That's why Joey shines so much.
Joey's got it.
And Joey's super talented.
And Joey has a what I always say, like, currency cult following. He has one.
I mean, I was there. We were there when he gained that following. I was in the blog. I was blogging at that time.
100%.
And I saw it. Like, the people that liked Joey were because Joey reminded them of the 90s.
100%.
That's why he blew up.
That was his wave. Like, that was his whole. That was his whole wave.
Sure, he was good, but that was it. That was the reason why Joey escalated the way that he.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think with East though, Terry made a good point. He's still been, he's a successful artist. That's why I think it's more about he was just referencing his surroundings as opposed to sales or charts or anything like that.
Dave East is not trying to do the goofy stuff that you have to do to be a celebrity these days.
At all.
He's not trying to show up on red carpets with, IG models. He's not, jumping out of cars and throwing money on the street or being at fashion shows. Like, that's, unfortunately, that's what a large part of celebrity is. But, that's where we're at right now.
No, I can dig it. But shout out to Dave East, man. It's just like sports with athletes and reporters. They always talk about we want
athletes.
Shout out to Charles Barkley, athletes. They always talk about we want the truth from our athletes. We want the truth from them. We don't want them to lie. We don't want this and that. So I appreciate the transparency because I agree with him 100%.
Yeah, I don't actually think there's anything controversial about what he said at all.
No.
Yeah, I think it's dope that he said it. Maybe I don't know if other people will be as open, but salute to him.